Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. If you've ever literally felt the sheer weight of anxiety just pressing down on your chest, or if you're just totally exhausted by the endless treadmill of trying to perform perfectly to feel worthy, well, you are in exactly the right place today. We're going to unpack some incredibly grounding source material about divine love. We'll look at how to find a really profound, unshakable stabilization when the pressures of life and our own personal anxieties threaten to completely overwhelm us. We're going to explore how replacing worry with a very specific kind of peace isn't just, a nice idea. It's a practical reality.
So let's jump right into the big question here. When the world disappoints, what anchors your soul? Because the truth is, we all face moments of deep insecurity and brokenness. Think about a recent time when your personal anxiety really flared up. Maybe it was a moment where you felt like you totally failed at work, or you disappointed a friend, and that familiar spiral of worry just started pulling you under. We all have these personal storms, right? In those moments, when our own strength gives out and the world lets us down, what is actually holding us in place? We desperately need something heavier and stronger than our fleeting emotions to stabilize us. We need a true anchor.
And honestly, that brings us right to the core thesis of what we're looking at today. God's love is described here as the most profound, unchanging, and sacrificial force in the universe. And what's absolutely vital for an anxious heart to hear right now is that this love, it isn't something you earn by your performance. It's not diminished by your failures either. It is a rescuing grace. Imagine someone who is completely exhausted from treading water in a sea of their own worries, suddenly feeling solid ground beneath their feet. That is exactly what this rescuing grace does. It calls us out of our brokenness and acts as that steadfast anchor.
Okay, so we're going to look at 3 foundational truths to help anchor your faith and replace worry with divine peace daily. Here's truth number 1, unconditional and sacrificial love, basically meeting us in the mess.
And wow, this verse brilliantly illustrates the pinnacle of that love. Romans 5:8 tells us that this love was demonstrated while we were still sinners, meaning while we were still completely messy and imperfect. If you struggle with anxiety, you know so much of that fear comes from thinking, I need to have it all together before I'm acceptable. But this verse completely shatters that anxiety. God doesn't wait for us to have our lives perfectly organized before He loves us. The love precedes the perfection.
Now check out how the mechanics of this actually break down. It's kind of like looking at 2 sides of a coin. On one side, we have the reality. And the reality is that this love demands absolutely zero perfection. It meets us right in the middle of our mess and offers redemption right there on the spot. On the other side, we have the measure. Like, how do we know this is actually true? Well, the cross is the ultimate metric of this devotion. He held literally nothing back to restore fellowship with us. When you're feeling anxious about your worth, you can look at this metric. It's an objective, historical anchor proving you are valued beyond measure, exactly as you are right now.
Moving right along to truth number 2, relentless and faithful grace. Mercies that are fresh every single morning.
So, the real crucial takeaway here is found in Lamentations 3. His mercies are fresh every single morning. Think about how incredibly liberating that is for a worried mind. Anxiety loves to drag the failures of yesterday right into the worries of tomorrow. But this truth cuts that cycle immediately. No matter how many times we stumble or how many times we let anxiety win the battle in our heads, God's compassions never fail. They are entirely renewed each day. You literally wake up with a completely clean slate of grace.
Actually, it goes way deeper than just a clean slate. His love actively pursues us. A friend of mine once described their anxiety as this dark forest they just kept wandering into, trying to fix everything on their own, only to get more and more lost. But they found immense comfort in realizing they didn't have to find their own way out. This truth tells us that His love pursues us even when we wander into those dark forests of worry. It always makes a way for us to return to His embrace. You aren't just waiting around to be found, you are actively being pursued.
All right, that brings us to truth number 3, love that transforms, how we actually overcome fear and start living freely.
This right here, this is the ultimate antidote to an anxious heart. 1 John 4:18 states that perfect love drives out fear. And this is exactly how we replace worry on a daily basis. When you fully realize just how securely you are loved by God, unconditionally, relentlessly, sacrificially, you no longer have to operate out of anxiety or insecurity. The fear of not being enough, the fear of the unknown, it literally gets pushed out because the space in your heart is now completely occupied by this perfect love.
Experiencing this kind of deep love, it triggers this absolutely beautiful chain reaction. It starts with step 1, realizing you are securely loved. That internal realization naturally leads to step 2, overcoming fear and anxiety, because your identity is now anchored in grace, not your performance. And once that fear is gone, it opens up the capacity for step 3, sharing that love with others. It completely changes your identity and commissions you to interact totally differently with the world around you.
And that outward expression is perfectly captured here in 1 John 4:12. If we love one another, God abides in us, and His love is perfected in us. See, because we are filled with and secured by this unchanging grace, we aren't just hoarding it for ourselves. We are now fully equipped to share it with the people around us. Your freedom from anxiety becomes a tool to help liberate others, perfecting His love right there in your community.
To wrap things up, we want to leave you with your daily mantra. Just a simple thought to carry for quiet reflection when the storms of life pop up. I really want you to let these words sink in for a second. You are designed to be loved by God. When the world disappoints you, let the magnitude of His love heal your heart and anchor your soul. Use this as your daily mantra against worry. When your heart starts racing, when the demands of the day just feel too heavy, hit pause. Remind yourself of this. It brings you right back to the ultimate anchor in the storm. You don't have to perform, you just have to let the magnitude of His love heal you.
So I'll leave you with this final kind of provocative question to carry with you today. How will you let the anchor of God's unchanging love steady your anxious heart today? Which of those 3 truths do you really need to lean into right now? I hope this explainer has given you the structured clarity you need to step out of worry and into peace. Thanks so much for joining me, and I really encourage you to let this profound truth transform your reality right now.